Hey, what's up? I feel like that intro right there was just super weird. Today we're going to be doing a 3 looks 1 palette with the Huda Beauty Rose Quartz palette. This is another one in the chopping block series. So if you want to see 3 looks and hear my final thoughts on whether I'm going to keep this or declutter this, be sure to stay tuned. If you're new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. And yeah, let's go ahead and hop on into some close-ups and swatches. All right, so here is a close-up of the Rose Quartz palette in natural winter lighting. And then I also included swatches as well, so you could get a better idea of the undertone of the shades. She is just absolutely stunning. So underrated and beyond neglected in my collection because wow. All right, here we go. Look number 1. I'm going to start with that really pale pink shade there in the middle. I find that this one is actually really good for setting, even though it might not necessarily go with all of the other color stories. It really is such a light pink that I don't find it makes a huge difference if I pair it with, something else, because you can really blend those edges out well. I then went into that deeper pink shade, which I personally really like. It is super vibrant, packed with pigment, kind of like a Barbie doll pink, but just like a smidge muted. I find this one just like blends out really nicely, keeps its pigment, everything I would really want from a matte, and I really enjoy it just because of the shade. I think it's impressive that it can hold that. I'm then going to go into the deeper shade just to deepen up the outer corner. This is like one of the only deep shades in this palette that I think pairs, one well with all the cooler tone looks, but really the only one that goes with them at all. As you might be able to see, I'm like kind of struggling with this shade. It's looking patchy right off the bat, which I've clearly used this shade a lot in the past. I have a pan in it, and these are very tightly pressed, so it takes some work. I am trying to go back in and just like fill some of that in really lightly so that we have a more equal pigmented lid, but I'm struggling. So I'm like, we're going to just go into the shimmers. So I take my NYX glitter glue and a little swatch test there. I want to show you guys that because that shade is very pretty. As I'm applying this, you can see the huge patch to the outside between those shades, and it's driving me freaking insane. I also am going to dip into Moon Magic there, and that's what I'm going to use on the inner corner just to bring some of that light back. This shade is super pretty and very reflective. Then I'm dipping back into that deep shade because I'm just trying to fill in those patches. And I even went back into the more Barbie pink shade just to kind of blend those edges more and bring that pink more into a vibrant place up there at the top. Okay, guys, so here is the finished look. As you can see, or maybe as you can't see, that outer corner is looking pretty patchy with that deep shade. I know that I did a voiceover on this, and so I don't usually like come back through and like discuss when I do the voiceover piece, but I just want to make sure I'm getting my thoughts out so that when I circle back to this later, I'll be able to know like exactly what was going on. So yes, I used the Mantra shade on the outer portion, and I really struggled with it. I'm not sure how much I'm gonna show in the sped up version, but I had to keep going in and like trying to put more pigment on because I felt like the shadow like just was not sticking to my lid. And then I think that it looks patchy. Like, let me know if I'm delusional in the comments, but I think that it looks patchy, which is really frustrating because I use a deep shade to darken pretty much every single look I ever do. And as you can see, this is like pretty much the only deep shade in here, especially that's going to go with all these cool tones. So it's vital to the palette, in my opinion. I went in with this Moon Magic shade all over the inner corner and swoopity, and then I also used it a little bit on the brow bone so that I could get that pan because it looked close. Another thing that I wanted to note here is that when I used this shade, which is Cosmic Love, all over the lid, the texture felt kind of dry, which is interesting. I know it didn't feel that way before, so I just wanted to mention it. I'm just like randomly swatching some of these other ones because it's so pretty. So yeah, that was starting to feel a little bit dry. Which I don't know, my friend Liz, we're doing a pan that palette pan off right now over on IG, and she selected the Rose Quartz palette, and we weren't going to announce it until the beginning of 2024, but we ended up doing it in November of 23 because she said she felt like some of the shades were starting to expire, so she wanted to get a jump start on it. And now I'm kind of like feeling what she's saying, because just, man, that deep shade is super frustrating to me. Which, like, I don't know, when I put this on the chopping block, I did some swatches and I was like, I probably will keep this because I think I'll use it more now that I'm into like cooler tones. And like, I think that this turned out so beautifully. I love the tones in here, but like that patchy ass matte, oh my god, so now I don't know. Obviously I'm gonna do at least 2 more looks with it and see if I can finagle something to like work and like enjoy it. Like, I don't know. Like, damn. Frustrating. Very frustrating. But yeah, I just wanted to get those initial thoughts out while I'm sitting here and they're like fresh in my mind before we move along. But yeah, look number 1. Let's go ahead and hop into look number 2. All right, here we go. Look number 2. I'm going to be starting out with the shade Radiate, which honestly is a really beautiful, like purpley pink taupe. I'm going to apply that all over the lid, take it into the crease and up into the transition. Honestly, one of my favorite matte shades in this palette. Just gorgeous. Then I'm going to be dipping into the shade Precious, which is that deeper, cool toned matte. Has like a purple undertone that I really, really like. I'm going to apply that to the outer corner and up into the crease a little bit to deepen things. Obviously, it's not as deep as that Mantra shade, but hopefully it's going to get the job done. This one did apply much better than the Mantra shade I used yesterday, so it had me feeling hopeful. Now we're going in with my NYX Glitter Glue per usual before I go in with a shimmer. And I'm going to use the shade Blissful today. This one is absolutely stunning, as you can see on the lid. Immediately I'm noticing that this shimmer is dry like the other one. And oh my gosh, it's just crumbling everywhere. Crumbling in the pan, crumbling on the brush, crumbling onto my face, so that's great. And then yeah, I'll be back to chat final thoughts. Okay, so here we have finished look number 3. I almost just said 3. Number 2. Number 2, I just wanted to get close up so you could really see what all is going on. I will say this look is better than the one yesterday in terms of the matte performance. I found that the deeper matte that I used on the outer corner here didn't struggle as, sorry, this is like jittering, hang on. Sorry, all that movement was literally just driving me insane. But the deep matte did not struggle as hard as the deep matte from yesterday, so that was good. I really like the tones of this look. What I will say is the shimmer that I used felt really dry, similar to the one that I used yesterday, which kind of really stinks. I went in with it on the lower lash line, and then I popped a little bit of Moon Magic on the inner corner as well.
And then I used it on the brow bone too, just for a little something. But yeah, the shimmer formula is drying out. I experienced a lot of fallout yesterday, which I didn't have that issue with the palette before, which if you have this palette, then you know when you first got it, how like buttery, soft, and smooth these shimmers were. Like they were just so soft and beautiful. Mine are no longer that way. They're drying out, they're harder. It takes more to like build up the color, or you got to warm them up with your finger first. So I think that the formulation might just be putting out is what I'm thinking. Which stinks. It's kind of one of those things, it's like where, you know, I have so many other palettes, so do I hang on to this one and deal with like mattes that aren't necessarily the best and like flaky shimmers, or do I just let it go so that I can use palettes that are still fine more? So that's kind of the mindset of where I'm at right now. So I just wanted to update you all like in real person / time as I'm going through this, like what my thoughts are. And that's kind of where I'm at. I'm gonna do at least one more look, maybe a fourth look, we'll see. But yeah, regardless, this is the look. I do think the shimmer came out very pretty. Yeah, let's just go ahead and jump into look number 3.
Okay guys, so here is look number 3. I was not able to film this to showcase it. I forgot my tripod while traveling, and while I was able to do the other 2 looks in natural light, propped up in the window, I wasn't able to do that this morning just because it was still dark out. So instead, I'm gonna just run through the shades. I will insert a photo of the eye look so you can just see a little bit closer, maybe even a little bit better as compared to like what's going on right now. So to start, I used the shade Serenity here, this matte. And to be honest, I wasn't really sure where I wanted to go with this look when I started. I literally was like, I think I just want to use like one of the shimmers I haven't used before. So I like swatched everything after I set with this shade. And then I was like, okay, we're gonna like dabble with some of the color stories. So I went into this shade here, which is Happiness. And I actually just used that all over the outer corner and up into the transition. And really, you can't really even see the Serenity shade. I did bring it up to blend out the edges a little bit, and I think that was helpful, but like there's no distinction of shade. They kind of like blended together, if you know what I'm saying. And then I went into the shade Self Love right here. And that is actually what I have all over the lid and on the inner corner. And then I also took it up there on the brow bone as well. I really like the way that it mixes. It's like one of those shades she has that like mixes, and it's like a shade. And then I went back in with like a pencil brush and really like highlighted that inner portion there. I think that this shimmer is very pretty, definitely a very underrated one in this palette for sure. And then I just went in with the Mantra shade here, this deep one, and I use that on the lower lash line, which that's something that it could be like potentially used for. If I'm going to keep it, I could use it as a lower lash line shade. But just, yeah, that is a look. That's what I have on my eyes today. Final thoughts. Day one's look, I really struggled with the deep Mantra shade, very patchy. The shade Cosmic Love was very dry, ended up flaking a lot, and I got a lot of fallout all over my face. Moon Magic was also dry. I don't feel like there was nearly as much fallout though in this shade as there was in the Cosmic Love. I feel like Cosmic Love is much drier. Day two, I felt like the Precious shade created a better, like it wasn't muddy, it worked well, but it's not as deep as I would like to have an outer corner. I really would like to have a deep outer corner. So while that shade was fine, it couldn't like replace the Mantra shade, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I then went in with the shade Blissful, which also feels, like I said, pretty dry. And I applied that all over the lid. And these, in my opinion, are the special shades in the palette. Really beautiful. However, this shade did cause quite a bit of irritation on my eye. I actually did not leave my makeup on long. I would venture to say 2 hours at the most. I was experiencing burning, and that is when I had decided to replace my Natasha Denona Star palette, when even though I wasn't getting good pigment from my shadows, I kept using it until then I got it caused irritation on my eye. So yeah, the shade Blissful irritated my eye. Should I have used it again today? The palette in general? No, probably not. But dang it, I don't want to declutter this palette, so I did use it again today because I really just wanted to try again and get a better feel for my thoughts. And this look turned out beautiful. There's not a bunch of fallout or anything. It's holding up really, really well. However, if you know me, this is not a look that I am doing actively. I actually was like, man, when is the last time I did something like this? I genuinely don't even know. And it does look really pretty, I think. But yeah, so those are the shades that I tried. Abundance has always been a favorite in this palette, so I didn't use it. I don't know why. I realistically could have done 5 or 6 looks with this, but Abundance has always been a favorite. The shade Energized here is beautiful, but it's actually cracked in the pan. I think it's because it's drying out. Really stunning. And then the shade Quartz up here is also really beautiful. You guys are probably surprised that I didn't do a neutral look because there are shades in here to accomplish a neutral look, but I'm not gonna save this palette based on a neutral look I can do with it because I have a lot of neutral shadows. So I really needed to see something from the other ones to justify keeping it. I essentially would have been swayed to keep this palette if these 3 shimmers here were in top condition and the deep matte was. Because I just think for myself, realistically, with my preferences, I'm not gonna reach for a palette that does not have a deep matte in it, because that is that's the eye shape and style that I prefer for my eye, and not having a shade in a palette that I can do that with means I'm gonna constantly be reaching into other palettes to finish a look, and I'm just not someone that does that. And then also, I really just don't feel comfortable using those special shades anymore after I experienced that irritation from the shade Blissful. I just think that I think this shade, Blissful, I think has expired due to the irritation it caused. I think this shade has expired due to the huge change in quality upon use. And then I think some of the other shades are starting to expire, and we're seeing that in a more dried out formula, a powderier formula. And so I ultimately just think that I would rather focus on or use palettes that I want to reach for and can create full looks and bring joy, rather than a palette that's kind of already halfway expired. I did do some research. This has a 24-month shelf life. I got this in November of, 2021. So it's just over 2 years old, which is interesting because my khaki palette only lasted about 3 months past its shelf life before it started to go off. So I'm thinking that Huda, maybe her shadows just run a lot closer to the shelf life expectancy than other brands, which is fine. I mean, it sucks, but makeup does expire. And at the end of the day, makeup expires. All your makeup is gonna expire. So I would rather like use stuff that I'm actively wanting to reach for all the time than use stuff that's already like half expired. I'm just really like shocked that like some of these are already going off. I also talked to my friend Liz in DMs because we're doing a that palette together and she's using rose quartz, and she had wanted to start our project earlier actually because she felt like some of the shadows in hers were also starting to expire. So long story long, I love Huda Beauty's large palettes. I love the formulas in here, but I would be mindful that they are gonna run a little bit closer to expiration date. So before you pick one up, make sure it's one that you think you're gonna really use and love and get a lot of use out of, because now I'm personally like a little bit frantic or nervous about, you know, some of my other ones, because I know even, this is turning into such a huge tangent, sorry if you don't want to hear this, but I was talking to Steph, and even in my Naughty Nude palette, there was one I was using, and I don't recall which shade it was now, but I felt like the formula had started to shift, and I was like, oh no. So yeah, I think her palettes expire more around that shelf life date, so be mindful of that. This palette is so pretty, and it also just makes me frustrated with my purchasing habits in the past, because this is one I really loved when I first got it, and then it kind of got lost in the shuffle, because at one point in time I had like over 80 palettes, and now I'm more down around the 20 mark. But it just got lost in the shuffle, didn't get, you know, used as much as I would have liked to. And now that I have less palettes in my collection, I was like, wow, I'm like really excited to get to know this one, to use it more. And I was really sad when the formulas were not performing. I was like, gosh darn it. Really upsetting. This was actually my first palette that I got in PR from Huda Beauty ever. So I think that like I am gonna declutter it, but for sentimental, and I'm not gonna like use it anymore. But for sentimental reasons, I am gonna just set it to the side in a little like box, because it's just really special to me. I don't think I'm biased when I review Huda's products. There are products that I don't like and products that I do like. But like this one is just special to me, and that time was, you know, so exciting, so surreal, and just, yeah, so I don't want to let it go. I don't have any other palettes like saved or set to the side. The two that I did have, I ended up tossing when I moved out of my old home like pretty abruptly, because I just was in a frenzy. But like, I don't know, over the last like couple months, I've really been regretting like tossing my Tati Beauty palette, because like, even though it was expired and I wasn't gonna use it, like I really just wish that I still like had it. You know what I mean? If you collect makeup and keep it and stuff, like I'm sure you have those sentimental pieces. I don't really have a lot of them, but that would have been one, and this will be one as well. But yeah, so long story, I am gonna declutter it. I have added it to my loves list on Sephora though, and I might add it back to my wish list potentially. But yeah, as I really like narrow down my collection and stuff, I think it's gonna create some room for pieces that maybe I have loved and have expired and I can bring back in to like really use them. So yeah, I added this back to my loves list, and I could see it re-entering my collection at some point. But yeah, for now, we're gonna part with her. I'm not gonna use her on my eyes anymore. Yeah, so that's all. If you enjoyed this video or have any like, you know, obviously any comments, like use the comment box. Dog won't stop barking, so this keeps cutting in weird places. So this could be a mess, and it's been so rambly. I'm sorry. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.